You are listening to Specifically for Seniors, a podcast designed for a vibrant and diverse senior community. I'm your host, Dr. Larry Barsh. Join me and a lineup of experts as we discuss a wide variety of topics that will empower, inform, entertain, and inspire as we celebrate the richness and wisdom of this incredible stage of life. Editorial cartoons distill political complexity into a single striking image. By exaggerating flaws, contradictions, or absurdities, they make power visible, often more effectively than prose. And today, to explain how editorial cartoons can expose hypocrisy, amplify public sentiment, and create memorable metaphors, we are honored to have as our guest the legendary Steve Brodner, illustrator, editorial cartoonist, and fearless chronicler of the American political theater. From the halls of the Library of Congress to the pages of The Nation, The Washington Post, and the LA Times, Brodner's pen has skewered hypocrisy, exposed corruption, and elevated satire to an art of resistance. As the first artist inducted into the Society of Illustrators Hall of Fame and recipient of the 2024 Herb Block Prize, Brodner continues Herb Block's legacy of confronting power with wit and visual metaphor. Today, we're going to explore how editorial cartooning can illuminate civic decay, provoke dialogue, and inspire action. And I'd like to encourage our listeners to view this podcast on YouTube, since we're going to be showing and talking about some of Steve's illustrations. Welcome to Specifically for Seniors, Steve.
Thank you, Larry. I'm honored to be here. It's a great pleasure to be with you, and I'm thrilled to be discussing what is sometimes an overlooked means of communication. Uh, Political cartooning has had its heyday in the days of print, when print was king, and since print has undergone a severe decline, to say the least, near extinction experience. What we do is harder to come by and harder to find, but has found other forms. And I'm happy to say we have not gone extinct. We are thriving. We have many young practitioners and some old timers like me, and we're making our voices heard. I hasten to add that we are just one group of artists and expressive people who are making our voices heard on social media and in platforms like Substack, where you have writers, poets, musicians, all combining to tell the truth in a time when the truth is under siege and ferocious attack by the regime and their organized mob. This is not a small thing. This is the big issue right now of encroaching authoritarianism, and in many areas, fascism and Nazism, which is a word you're not supposed to say. We could get probably blocked if you use that word, so I'll be careful with it. I did lay the N bomb on you already, but if you want to know an important component of the MAGA culture the words of Nick Fuentes. Read the words of the sainted Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
That'll tell you what you need to know. But I suspect our listeners already know this, uh, and but it's good to hear other people express uh, feelings that let them know they're not alone. And I think that's a lot of what I do is I tell people they're not alone. I'm not interested in converting anyone. I've never had the experience of converting anyone either in an argument, a conversation, or with a cartoon. Somebody said we're here to entertain the troops.
How did you get into editorial cartooning?
God only knows. It was 60 years ago. Seriously, I'm a child of the late 50s, early 60s, when there was an explosion of political activism, particularly after the death of JFK and the coming of the Vietnam War and the civil rights movement and all the other liberation movements in the country. And it was a great time of kind of explosive creativity. And I was a little boy, teenager, and I just felt that this was a part of life. And I admired an awful lot of artists who were comedians and cartoonists and musicians and politicians and spiritual leaders. And they were, Martin Luther King was an artist. He was, a lot of the civil rights leaders, if you listen to them, they were artists. Malcolm X was an artist. They were doing rap. They were doing brilliant poetry uh, performances, and and JFK also, and RFK. I admired RFK Senior.
Seniors.
Senior. Now we have to put the senior on to make sure we don't confuse people. I think a lot of young people may not have even heard of Senior, and unfortunately, his demented son will in some way sully the name. But we have to take care of that best we can.
Getting back to that era, I mentioned you're the winner of the Herb Block Prize. For those who are
Right on.
unfamiliar with Herb Block, who was he?
Herblock was a long time editorial cartoonist for the Washington Post, the editorial cartoonist for the Washington Post, uh, arguably the most important political cartoonist in the history of the United States. Thomas Nast was our founding father and very important in his time, but he had a very short career, relatively speaking. He helped destroy Boss Tweed in the 1870s, and by the 1880s, America had changed so much that there was no longer an appetite for his kind of ferocious work. However, Herblock began in the Washington Post, I believe, in the 1940s, and finished up, I don't know, I think in the 80s. No, I think in the early 2000s. I think he may have gone to, I don't know his end date, 99, something like that. Anyway, it's a very long career, and but his influence carried on all those decades, from Truman, I think, until Clinton, I believe, and or beyond, and always, a fighter for liberty, civil rights, freedom, the First Amendment, the, everything that's in the Constitution, all those radical ideas. And the preamble to the Constitution must make MAGA people explode to read that thing. No wonder they're so hard at work to cancel it out. And Supreme Court and the vanguard of that. Anyway, he had a special period of time, like Nast, as Nast opposed Tweed. Herblock was one of the few voices opposing McCarthy and the Red Scares and the red baiting of the 1950s, and Nixon especially. And Nixon then, of course, tragically was elevated to the presidency, and her block was still there at the Washington Post, whamming away at, wailing away at Nixon, and Nixon uh, did not have an easy time with her block. And then finally, when Watergate hit, her block was one of the greatest. That was maybe his McCarthy times, and then Watergate were her block's golden moments. But he, like Bill Malden, who's a contemporary of his and also a great cartoonist and a better artist than Herblock was, um, strong on civil rights and human rights and uh, uh, anti-war. And so these are the people I grew up on. I don't know where you live, Larry. I'm from New York. And you sound like you might be a New Yorker, are you?
Uh, I'm originally from Boston. I'm back in Boston. We did live in New York for,
Okay.
a dozen years or so in the city. So,
So you could maybe uh, have some of it rubbed off on you.
a
Uh,
lot of it.
but when I was a boy, the New York Post was a liberal newspaper, and before Murdoch, BM before Murdoch, and Dorothy Schiff was the publisher of the New York Post at that time, and they ran her block every day. So I followed her block daily. Of course, I bought the New York Post when uh, I was pretty. I guess for a kid, I was pretty early a news junkie. But part of that was because I followed sports, and New York Post had a great sports section. I think it still probably does. I don't look at it too much, but I would then wind up reading all the columnists, mostly syndicated columnists in the Post, and then have a block every day. Great.
What's always gotten to me in a political cartoon, as opposed to writing, where you have, a limited number of words, but enough to express yourself. How do you compress a statement into one frame?
It's alchemy. It's absolute alchemy. There's no way to describe really how it works. Um, I teach illustration. So if I can't do it, I've been teaching illustration for 35 years. Uh, I tell my students that all art is a mashup, okay? It's always, King Kong meets Godzilla, Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. That's their best movie, I think. Anyway,
One of the best, anyway.
yes, I love that
I
movie.
think The Mummy was a good meeting too.
Yes. And it's you think about all the movies, most of the films that are made or books that are made written are have a kind of fish out of water sequence or aspect to it, where a character is now confronted with something completely unexpected and then has to find resources within him or herself to overcome. Um, a political cartoon is no different than other art. Uh, but it does have to be current in the moment, and it has to combine different things. So, for example, I did a cartoon a couple of days ago after Trump had this obscene Great Gatsby themed party uh, while cutting food benefits for children and poor people. And so I had this idea of them at the party looking out the window or having an open window, and it so happens thousands of starving children are gathered outside the window. And then I realized there's got to be a quote from Gatsby that I can throw on there. And then there is a wonderful quote about, it's a famous quote about they were careless people, Tom and Daisy. And it goes on. Fitzgerald ends and it just enough of a paragraph to fit at the bottom of my cartoon, and talking about, he ends with, they spent their life damaging other people and having other people clean up their mess for them. And then the word careless is moving in my head. And then I remember, so this is the mashup. This is where mashup happens. I'm mashing up hungry people and the party, and then Gatsby, and then an additional one happens where I'm remembering Melania wore a jacket that said, "I really don't care, do you?"
Hold on a sec. I'm going to
You
show
have it?
that.
There it is. Okay. Thank you. Wow. Johnny on the spot. Uh, I really don't care, do you? She had this jacket. So I thought, how great. Careless people, I really don't care. She said it. They gave you, in other words, this cartoon was drawn by the Trump family. I didn't have to do a thing except to make these connections, right? And then he answers her with a Nazi armband. I said it again. I'm sorry. We're both going to Uganda. Uh, Armband says, "Fuck no." Now, this is a three-way, four-way mashup. And that's what the good cartoons are. They are mashups. Good movies are mashups. uh, what would be another word for it? Combinations, cross references, jokes.
You balance humor, anger, and clarity in one image.
If you're good, if you're lucky, with a good wind, if if it all works, yes. Otherwise, doesn't work.
How do you, can, or I was going to say, how do you measure, but can you measure the impact of your work? Public reaction,
No,
editorial reach?
you have no way of knowing. You have no way of knowing. Years later, somebody comes on and says, "Oh, that great cartoon you did," and I sent that to all my friends, and you inspired me. That's why I started to draw pictures. And you, it's quiet out there, you know. Um, I could see that, like that cartoon that you just showed, got many likes on social media. It got many comments on Substack. Uh, Other things are more obtuse. They don't as much, but you never know. You don't know. I've spent my life making these pictures, most quite often in the dark at night, after spending a day marinating in news, which I do. I'm a news junkie. I was a news junkie when I was 10 years old. I'm 71. 61 years later, I'm still doing this. I got Time and Newsweek sent to my summer camp. Other kids were reading Batman. I'm reading Newsweek when I'm 10 years old. Anyway, it's just the way I was. It was my obsession, politics and what was happening, and the cartoonists and the artists and the movies and all that. So I marinate in all of this. I draw in the dark at night. Uh, it's quiet. It's quiet all the next day too. I've learned to tell myself, don't worry about what people say. Don't worry about what people think. It doesn't matter. What matters is how you feel about your work. I have this kind of perverse belief in God. I believe there's a God of illustration. I believe there's a God of cartoons. And when you've done it right, God is happy. And you know it. And your relationship is just one on one. And I feel this should be the case with musicians, dancers, um, writers. You know when you've done well. You don't need somebody, especially if you're in this a long time. You know when you've done it. You know, some of the greatest movies never won an Oscar. I don't know if you're a fan of old movies, but I love especially silent movies. And my favorite silent movie is The General by Buster Keaton. If anyone has the opportunity to see this in a theater, you're in a great treat if you have never seen Buster. This movie was the most expensive silent comedy of all time. Not many people went to see it, not enough. Critics were mixed on it, and it was because of this movie that he lost his independence as a filmmaker. It doesn't matter because even though he paid a high price, the movie is a masterpiece. It is a jewel. It is in the Library of Congress, preserved for all time. And, you know, Buster's dead 60 years. All the people involved are dead, including the little children who are in the film. Um, this is the curious nature of art. It's it's just between you and the picture that you're making, and the rest of it is completely on it. You mentioned these awards. It's nice to have awards. It's nice to have people like what you do. But in the final analysis, you have to like what you do. You have to be, when I say God of illustration, I mean that's like this thing inside of you here, you know?
On the other side, have you ever faced censorship for something you've done?
Oh, sure. Happens all the time. Uh, you mentioned when we started Washington Post and LA Times. I'm no longer in those publications. Um, just in the last year since Trump, as you know, I'm sure, both those publications have kowtowed, shall we say, bent the knee, shall we say, to Trump. And as a result, Ann Telnis no longer works at the Washington Post, and neither do I. And that was a place for me to do some of my best work over the last 10, 15 years. LA Times also is run now by a man who, it's a similar story where a billionaire savior comes in and was hands off for a long time, and life was good at these publications. And now they have turned into um, shadows of their former self, and in the amen corner for MAGA or worse.
What is this fear of Trump? Is it just verbal, or is it monetary threats? Or
Yeah, it's monetary. It's all about money. Um, Jeff Bezos and Sung Hyung uh, are both heavily invested. They're um, geopolitical oligarchs. They are interested in expanding their wealth and competing with each other to be the richest man in the world. And they are all investing in AI and chips and engulfing and devouring other media and getting bigger and bigger and stronger and wealthier. And their first mission is not journalism. These people are not journalists. They not like the Graham family was, or the Sulzbergers. They were oligarchs too, in a way, wealthy people. But Dorothy Schiff was, not Dorothy Schiff, but Catherine Graham was ready to lose money during Watergate. Certain corporations were willing to lose money during uh, the McCarthy era. That play or in that film that just was on Broadway called Good Night and Good Luck tells the story of Edward R. Murrow,
Mhm.
like her block was willing to challenge and oppose Murrow, even though William Paley, the owner of CBS, uh, kept pressuring him to stop because they were going to lose viewers. Finally, Murrow insisted and wound up helping to topple McCarthy. But also, we see at the end of that film how Paley takes Murrow off primetime, uh, and he paid a price. And then got out of journalism before he died, to work for the Kennedy administration, which is what journalists probably should not do. But, you know, you have to be willing to pay a price to have your independent voice. So in my case, I am on Substack, which I'm very happily am until something terrible happens to Substack. And it's a trend. You know, Paul Krugman went to Substack. Jim Acosta went to Substack. So by going to Substack and subscribing to the people that you like and the people that you know for free, and then pay for the ones that you really like or want to support, you have a channel there where you can go to, you know, one after the other. The Bulwark is wonderful, and Jennifer Rubin is wonderful, and Heather Cox Richardson, the queen of Substack, and Robert Hubble, and I could name people all day on Substack, and I hope somebody names me.
We'll get back to Substack in a second, but
Yeah.
you're talking about journalists like Mike Lindell and
Is he
and the
on
crew.
Substack, Mike Lindell?
No,
No, he.
but the crew over at the Pentagon now.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Uh,
He's is he a Pentagon reporter now, Mike
oh,
Lindell?
he's a journalist.
That's perfect.
It gives
Also,
journalism.
Loomer is now is a
Yeah,
Pentagon journalist.
it's got quite a group over there. But
Oh, I got to draw this. Thank
uh,
you, Larry. See, mashup. Keep going.
I, yeah,
This is good for me. Yeah.
even I'm on Substack. Uh, I'm trying. Substack
I
has.
recommend Larry, everybody,
Thank you.
and I'm gonna. But what I can do on my Substack is link to you and recommend you that way. So
Well, you better look first. But I think we agree politically anyway. Um, yeah, Substack gives you the freedom to say what you want, at least for now,
yeah, yeah,
uh, and use any language you want to use,
right, right.
uh, which I am proud to have been thrown off Facebook a couple of times. So it's
I'm off TikTok permanently. They were vowing to not let me back on. So I'm gonna have to.
TikTok is another story.
I'm gonna have to find another name. Maybe I'll use your name.
Oh, please. I might as well get in trouble. I'm 89. When you get to my age,
Woo.
the threat of a life sentence doesn't carry the weight it once did.
Except, you
Uh,
know, Larry, I'm seeing so many obituaries now in the paper of people who are over 100. This one's 103. This one's 104. Just want to celebrate 101st birthday. It's like, um, you never know. You don't know. You look fantastic and you sound fantastic for 89, for any age, and I wouldn't have come close to guessing your age.
oh, thank you. Um, let's get back to political
Yes,
cartooning.
okay.
Um,
Far afield.
I looked back. I know we talked about showing just some of the new work,
Yeah,
like the Gatsby
yeah,
one.
yeah.
But there was one older one I wanted you to comment on,
Okay.
the
Yeah,
Winged
yeah,
Monkeys.
yeah, yeah. That's the Washington Post. That was the Washington Post, and I wanted to do something different than this, but I had a wonderful art director named Chris Rookin, who is no longer there for reasons you can imagine, and he's still a good friend. But Chris kept saying, "More monkeys. We need more monkeys, like more cowbells, you know, more monkeys." So I just kept throwing more and more monkeys, and each one of them is a specific character from the MAGA sphere, and you know, poor Biden is Dorothy as the monkeys are entering, are passing the window as in the scene from Wizard of Oz, and Trump is the Wicked Witch in the crystal ball screaming at him. Uh, and so the Washington Post did change this around in a way that I thought weakened it because historically, uh, it's truer now than it was then. Uh, I wanted Merrick Garland to be Dorothy. First of all, his name is Garland. Isn't that like great that his name is Garland and Dorothy? And but he was the one who had the power to prosecute Trump, had the power to go after all these people, and he waited and waited and dithered. And Trump could have been prosecuted right off the bat, and you would have had a different result. Harder to run from jail. Anyway, I think Merrick Garland, when history gets around to it, is not going to fare well in the scheme of things. But the Washington Post said, we can do this if you make it Biden. I said, okay. I take what I can get from the client. And even though they weren't paying nearly uh, 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 as much as this amount of work required. But there's Tucker Carlson, there's Mitch McConnell, there's Bannon, there's Roger Stone. Everybody, got everybody in there, and uh, and I thought it was successful as far as it went.
And one of the things I noticed looking at this and some of your work from this time period
Yeah.
is that the recent work has changed in style
Oh yeah.
and in metaphor.
Uh-huh. In metaphor, you think? Yeah.
Yeah, the even the way the illustrations are drawn.
Oh yeah. This is done in a matter of hours. The other one took weeks. The amount of detail in a piece that you have a long deadline for is a completely different series of choices that you have. Here, again, I'm doing a mashup of the famous uh, uh, Margaret Burke White photograph of poor people standing on a bread line waiting in front of a poster of happy white folks. It says there's no way like the American way, world's highest standard of living. I actually swiped the text, the type from the photograph, and I threw it onto this illustration where Trump is holding in his hands the withheld emergency food aid, which he still holds, even though two courts have told him to release it, uh, while people now in modern dress are in the on the on the bread line, and and then I took a quote from the AP, I think it is, and but the style is has to adapt to the fact that I'm turning it around in 2 hours, 3 hours.
And let's take a look at this as another totally different
Yeah, yeah.
style.
Style, form follows content. I found a pattern that had a million little dots on it, and I thought, well, 40 million will be thrown off of food stamps or SNAP. Um, let's take four faces of children and draw them with a crayon on top of a, uh, a dot pattern that represents 1 million dots. And the four of them will represent 40 million, just to try to touch the magnitude of this horrifying tragedy.
The cruelty is just totally unbelievable. It's beyond even description.
It's a hostage situation, really. I will kill you if you don't. I will kill you with food if you don't let me kill you with medical care. And Democrats, for the first time, are showing backbone and fight. And I think it made a difference on Tuesday.
It certainly did. Let's take a look at something totally different.
Yeah, I've been enjoying drawing with colored pencils. So I draw one line with red. I have them in the left hand. I take a green one out. I draw another line with the green one. I take the purple one. I draw another line with that. Uh, and these are people who will be devastated by the cuts to Obamacare. Um, they're very creative. They just are so good at finding ways to hurt people. Uh, After Tuesday, Trump feels a really great idea is to cut uh, the air flights out of airports by 10% on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Really, really smart, pal. You do that. You go ahead and do that. Enjoy yourself.
And his followers think these are great ideas,
Great.
even though it affects them.
It's going to affect them. They're owning the libs. Good. Own the libs in Keokuk, Iowa, while you're trying to get to Des Moines. Okay? Enjoy yourself. And Democrats will win that Senate race in Iowa. Democrats are going to win in red. You know, a lot of the vote on Tuesday, I just read this morning, were Trump supporters who voted Democrat this time. So
Yeah.
the instead of realizing how he's messed up, he is doubling down on the cruelty. It's going to be, Larry, next year, it's going to be in 2026, one of the most devastating elections in history. And not just because of Trump, but because of us, because we have become activists. We across the country are knocking on the doors and writing the postcards. And don't forget postcards. You know, if you're senior, postcards are extremely effective. You don't have to walk anywhere. You can sit and just do 5 a day. We have 362 days, Larry, till the election.
Uh,
Do a card every day. Do 5
5 a day, you're quoting Tony the Democrat.
Is that right?
Yeah, he's coming on in a couple of
What does
weeks.
he say? A card a day?
He asks for just 5
5 a day? Can
over
you
3 days.
Can
Now
you?
you get 3 days to send out or to write 5 postcards.
That's going to have to be the thing everybody does. Get any kind of card, just a personal note. Use a couple of colors, you know, a blue and a black, and and just make it come from you and send it. Can you imagine the millions of people who will be writing these cards and how many there'll be? That's far more effective than any TV ad with Robert De Niro or somebody else. This is like, but you know, everyone can see what's happening. We've got the wind at our back now. So when you write a card now after Tuesday, it's different. It's significantly different because this is a popular uprising, and like we haven't seen in this country really since Vietnam.
Yeah. Getting back to your cartoons, uh, ice is another story.
Well, these images fly by on Instagram for me too fast. I want to freeze them. I want to hold them. And I feel that when you draw something, um, you give it something more. I can't tell you exactly what that thing is, but I think this is endemic. In the nature of drawing about something, or writing a poem about something, or singing a song about something. It isolates it and holds it up and you can look at it and turn it around and examine it, think about it. It holds it in the mind. So this is one of the things I want to do now, is to take these pictures that I see flashing really fast on Instagram, pausing the video, and drawing it. And then finding quotes that go with it. And quite often there are people who are speaking or being interviewed about what happened. And I think it's not just what's going on, but also how it's being done. These people do not have badges, no ID, and they cover their faces. Like the criminals that they are, Larry,
Mm-hmm.
like the bandits, the sadistic uh, lowlife that they are.
And then you get megalomania.
This is a mashup. Oh my God. Talk about mashups. He wants to build an arch in Washington. Okay. He wants to build an arch in Washington as he's tearing down part of the White House. So I took the pictures of the White House being torn up and I superimposed them onto this arc that I realized I could make look like him. All right, so those are three things together right away: the Ark, Trump, and the White House. And then I could put on the bottom big bags of money, and I took the trouble to get all the corporate logos of actual contributors, donors to this ballroom that he's building. That's a fourth mashup. And then I decided to have some kind of an extra thing where the bags of money crush people as they try to pass through the arch in Washington. So, for whatever it's worth, Arc de Trump.
Do you draw
Too
for
much, too
others?
much. Yes, what?
Do you draw for others or do you draw for yourself?
Oh, I really draw for myself. I mean, I hate to say this, it sounds so stupid, but I really do like draw for God. I draw for the God of cartoons. I know it's like I know when I've done it right. I know when all these metaphors work together and fit together. And it's a puzzle, and I'm working on it every day, and it gives me tremendous pleasure when I feel this process has resulted in some truth made illuminated and emphasized and clearer or more memorable. Again, we're not interested in changing minds. That doesn't happen. It's not in our purview. It's not something that we can achieve. What you can achieve is tell the truth, shame the devil, and support people who need to see it and hear it. And and that's how to live a good life.
Uh, we touched on it right at the beginning when you talked about print journalism as opposed to digital journalism. How does editorial cartooning evolve to remain relevant in the digital world?
God only knows. I don't know. I think I what I tell what one of the things that keeps it in print, that's not answering your question, but it really, in order to be very effective, I tell my students to learn about graphic memoirs and graphic novels. People still love opening an actual book and reading a graphic novel. Mouse, Persepolis, Fun Home. These are classics. These will be read in 100 years. They are amazing, amazing books, and people want to read them. Um, I don't do those kinds of books, but I think it is an option for us. I do other kinds of books, basically printed versions of what I have done here. Um, in online in the internet world, if you say something that people respond to, it will get coverage. It'll be forwarded and shared, but you can't control that. I don't know how it happens. Uh, you you shouldn't worry. It's none of your business, really.
Can I ask you, how can we view an editorial cartoon more intelligently?
Read, read as much as you can. Um, that is now everybody's real mission. It used to be Walter Cronkite. It used to be that all you had to do was turn the TV on at 7 o'clock at night, half hour, you got the news. And when Walter Cronkite said Vietnam War is a terrible thing, we shouldn't do it, it changed the world because he had that kind of influence. Or when Edward R. Murrow said McCarthy is a bastard, watch out, that changed the world too. Uh, that doesn't exist anymore. CBS is now run by Barry Weiss. So that's gone. No more CBS. No more Washington Post. No more LA Times. New York Times is very sh- shall we say chary about saying things directly for different reasons. Uh, it's up to us to curate our own news. It's up to us to find out who's telling the truth and who's reliable. And it's a job to read good journalism, and it's out there. Uh, the Guardian is excellent. Democracy Now, Amy Goodman, excellent. Mother Jones, The Nation, The Atlantic, The New Yorker. These are really good places. Subscribe to them. You don't have to get them in print. You can get them on your phone on a little app. And as I said, all the Substack people. Um, there's a wonderful book that I recommend. It's not too political. It's called Dopamine Nation, and look that up, and you'll get the name of the author, which escapes me at the moment. Uh, and she describes what happens when you get a dopamine hit. That explains Fox News. It explains MSNBC. It explains why people prefer news that makes them feel better. It's our job to read all news, including the news that upsets us, because then you can be an informed citizen, and then you can not only understand political cartoons, you can understand all manner of informed coverage of important information. Uh, read widely, read constantly, and uh, and know that that's your job.
Before before we close, I'd like you to mention your website and your Substack
Okay.
address.
Well, the Substack is more important than anything else right now, and that's Steve Brodner, my name, Steve StevBrodner .substack.com. My website is stevebrodner.com, but there you'll see a lot of old things. And The Nation also, if you go to thenation.com and scroll down, you'll see how they collect my work every week. So I send all the things I do all week on Friday, tomorrow morning. I'll send the whole basket of things to the Nation, and they put it on their website, which I'm greatly honored to do because I've been a contributor to the Nation for over 25 years. And now they carry me, and they gave me a column, and and I, I feel very close to them, and I value them more than ever because I put them with all those other publications I mentioned. They've got great writers, John Nichols, Jeet Heer, Katrina Vanden Heuvel is our editor, and she's a great writer also. And I highly recommend The Nation, and I'm thrilled to be among them. So
And your Substack post is called The Greater Quiet.
the greater quiet, yeah.
Why?
Because it started during COVID. I'm doing it now almost 6 years. And in March of 2020, uh, I would be quite literally weeping over the obits that I was reading of people who would pass away. And if you remember back then, it was massive. And I don't know where you were living in 2020, but I was right here. I'm on the Upper West Side of New York, and out there is Amsterdam Avenue, and I would hear the ambulances coming all night long. And the streets were empty. And it was me and my dog and my wife, and not necessarily in that order. And it was kind of scary. As older people, we didn't know when our time to get the COVID would be. There weren't vaccines then, um, and and we were losing anonymous people. And I just started to draw uh, this one and that one, and not on Substack, but just to put on social media. One thing led to another, and articles started to get written about these. And Washington Post ran a piece about it, and American Prospect wrote a piece about it. And somehow I got to Substack. I'm not sure exactly, but it didn't take long. And then, not very long after that, the nation started to carry these. So the greater quiet was the quiet of the dead. Uh, that Those silent were speaking in a very loud way through pictures for me. So again, it's the same thing I described before about how a drawing can crystallize something, make it stronger, uh, make it stand out, and maybe make it more memorable. Anyway, I wanted these faces of these people, many of whom were innocent, you know, well, they were all innocent, but many of them were inadvertent people who like worked in a hospital. The first one was a young man in his 30s who worked in a New York hospital, who was a nurse who died early on uh, because there was no protection. Nobody knew what it was. And that all got collected in a book called Living and Dying in America, published by Fantagraphics a couple of years ago, which is still available. Um, and Yeah, that's why it's called The Greater Quiet. I like the name. I think it's still okay.
That's where my podcast started. My wife and I were living in Florida at the time. Um, she was in memory care.
Uh huh.
Uh, and with no socialization possible, I basically had nobody to talk to.
Wow.
So I bought a microphone and a pair of headphones, which, yeah, I think they're mostly for decoration. Um, and just started with talking to some of my friends. And it grew. Uh,
Fantastic.
what's
Well,
next? What's next for you?
um, Friday. Friday, another cup of coffee, and the next cartoon, which I'm not, at this point, I have no idea about. After we hang up, I'm going to go back and check the headlines. And when I get an idea, I scribble it down. And then by tonight, sometime, I'll arrive at what I think Friday should be. And I have it done in the morning by 11 o'clock. That's my deadline at the Nation. I send everything over to them. And, uh, and then this weekend, I'll start thinking about Sunday funnies because on Sunday I do ridiculous ones, silly, stupid ones. Like you wanted to put up Pooper Man, but I didn't want this podcast to be sullied by too much poop. But for my Sunday followers, the paid subscribers get Sunday funnies, um, and the serious pieces are for everyone. I feel that they know me and they'll excuse all these vulgar, completely tasteless, irresponsible drawings. So that's for Sunday. I'm already collecting them. I have on my cell phone like little, notes on your if you have an iPhone, there's notes. So
Yeah.
I have one just called Funnies. Everything's like a ridiculous story that I just throw in there. And all I need is the story. The cartoon comes once I have the news that's, stupid enough. So if anybody out there has really stupid news,
I may just have to start paying for your Substack. Steve, this has been great. It's been a terrific conversation.
thank you,
It's
Larry.
helped us to.
Thank you very much. And
Likewise. It's just been great to understand more about your art and about your politics. So it's been terrific. Thank you.
Thank you. It's just doing what comes naturally. I think whatever we are going to be good at, you have to feel it in here first. First comes the need, the desire, the interest. You follow that. Don't impose anything on yourself that's not there already. And when you're doing that, you're cutting with the grain. You're going to be very effective and very happy. And I wish that for everybody. Thank you, Larry.
I was trying to think of something to say about that, but that's a great closing. Thanks, Steve.
My pleasure.
If you found this podcast interesting, fun, or helpful, tell your friends and family, and click on the follow or subscribe button. We'll let you know when new episodes are available. You've been listening to Specifically for Seniors. We'll talk more next time. Stay connected.